Thank you, Ray. That's the most comprehensive introduction I've ever had. That's 3 of my slides done before we even have to worry about it. So the first thing that I would like to say is thank you. There's a big yellow thing in the sky that we don't get to see that often. So the fact that you're all here, indoors, either means that you burn really quickly and it's of no fun to you at all, or that you've had to kind of make the effort. So it is very much appreciated that you've avoided the beer garden, the back garden, or the public park, whatever it was, and actually come here. So it is much appreciated. This is a non-tech AI session. So if anyone's feeling a little bit nervous about AI, anyone going, oh, I really probably should know more about it, I've heard loads of things, I'm not really sure, I've done a little bit, I didn't really like it, that's all absolutely fine. So we're going to try and have a little bit of kind of information, but a little bit of fun as well. We'll do an intro to AI just to kind of try and demystify it a little bit. A very whistle-stop tour of how to improve and take an approach to more structured prompting. One of the biggest differences you can make in getting more from your AI is how you actually kind of prompt it. And then we will going to attempt some live demonstrations without the aid of a safety net. We'll see how that goes, have a little bit of fun with it. And then talk about how we might be able to use it. And I've already had some conversations about risk and limitations. It's an important element of AI as well. And then a 5-step program to getting started if we want to. Well, before we get into that, and before I introduce myself further, I just want to pick up on the quote from the CEO of Google. And I'm going to read this because it warrants the kind of full version. So when I was checking my phone over there, that wasn't me being bored by what Ray was saying. I suddenly realized I hadn't got this loaded up. So he said that AI represents humanity's most transformative technological advancement yet. And unlike fire or electricity, which enhanced our physical capability, AI has the potential to amplify human intelligence itself and impact every sector of society simultaneously. So the technology requires careful global cooperation and frameworks to harness its benefits while minimizing risks, similar to how humanity had to learn to control fire and electricity with its greater implications. And for me, that's the most exciting part, the fact that actually human and AI together is a mighty, mighty kind of force and potential. So the way that I see it is that I used to be, or during my university days, did a lot of amateur dramatics directing. And I know, who knew that somebody who liked speaking was into Amdram? But I'm not creative. So I could take a text from a page and I could have some idea of what that lighting wants to be, but I'd have to kind of brief the lighting designer to make that magic. I'd have some idea of what I wanted the costumes to be, but I'd have to brief the costume designer to make that magic. Some idea of the set, had to brief the set designer. You get the picture. Now, all of that creativity, I can generate an output in some way. And that's the real excitement for me, is actually suddenly that creativity, whether it's brainstorming, thinking, idea generation, image creation, referring and reflection, all of that is now back within my gift. And I think that's really the potential that we can kind of harness. I'm not saying that AI is replacing humans. I think there is absolutely a place for humans in this mix. We have questioning, we have context, we have an ability to be able to look at comparison and difference that no AI can do and probably won't ever be able to do, but actually put that together with the speed and the intellect and the keenness that we can get results back in. It's a magical, magical mix. So that's the basis of which kind of I'd start. Ray's given a lot of this away. Thank you very much, Ray. That saved me a load of time. So yes, as well as running my own consultancy, I am an associate trainer for AI for non-techies. So top tip number 1, if you are AI curious in any way and want a really good non-technical way to access that information, definitely follow Heather and AI for non-techies. It's a really good resource. But yeah, I started life as a marketer. I'm kind of old and grey. I actually started work before the internet was even in businesses. That's how old and grey I am. But back in 2017, I was heading up ECRM for Travelodge, and we, with email as my channel of specialism, and we brought in a new product at the time called Phrasey, which was a AI subject line creator. So it was using machine learning and some deep learning, machine learning at the same time. And I kind of sat there and I went, there is no way that a machine is going to create a better subject line than me. 33% uplift in conversion and engagement from the machine-driven subject line. And you start to kind of look at what it was producing and you go, well, this all looks a bit weird. So we'd given it 2 years worth of data, what had worked, what hadn't worked. It had amassed all that, understood, found the patterns. And suddenly you start to get subject lines that are slightly off to the human eye. Their syntax is slightly wrong, or the capitalization is a bit wrong, or the choice of words together is slightly wrong. And then you kind of dig into it a bit deeper and you start to go, well, actually, humans don't read word for word for word. We look at structure and context first, and then we fill in the details. And the machine learning, the AI, knows that, sees that pattern, and can then be able to create things that we engage with more. So that got me really curious to go, there is something here, there's something different. And then continue to use AI within the marketing platform. So very much a kind of marketeer first, supported by AI, and then actually, about a year ago, fell down the AI rabbit hole completely, and now AI train and help businesses implement AI and actually have a kind of bit of a side hustle of AI for everyone. So how can you use AI for your own use and your own personal use? Again, great believer, have some fun, get used to it in your own way. And we'll give you a couple of examples how to do that. And then because most marketing is about storytelling, I also am trying to run a drummer and a balloon twister, and that's where Twist Consultancy gets its name from. And yes, sometimes I do actually twist balloons as part of my talks. Not today, I'm sorry to disappoint you this early on in the session. But the analogy here is that actually if I gave you Jerry, our balloon giraffe on the right there, and said, make this, you go, actually I'm not really sure where to start, and that seems a bit complicated, and I'm probably going to waste a load of time getting it wrong. But if I can break that down into a series of small steps, or twists in this case, suddenly the complex becomes much simpler to understand and to be able to deliver. And that works as well with marketing framework and theory as it does with AI. So we're going to take some small steps today, some small twists, and hopefully by the end of this, what seems complex actually isn't so complex after all. So let's take the mood of the room. People tend to fall into one of these kind of 4 pots. We're all marketeers, roughly, so let's do a bit of segmentation, right? So, explorers. So I haven't used any AI, or I've really only just kind of touched the surface with it, just starting to learn about it. The experimenters. So I've dabbled a little bit, I've tried it a few times, I'm sort of starting to find my way. Implementers. So actually I'm using it quite regularly, I might have started to use it for work as well. And then our leaders, so actually I'm using it every day. I've built it into systems and processes I'm using, and I'm fairly confident with it. So let's have a quick show of hands. There is no shame here. This is a very, very safe space. So our explorers, who's new to AI, just quick show of hands. There we go. Let's see. Always like, there's one brave person, then everyone else gets slightly braver. That's fine. Excellent. All right. Experimenters. So you've just dabbled a little bit. Ooh, about a third of the room, I'd say. Implementers. Oh, it's the most I've ever had in a room. Right, you can teach me. Perfect. There we go. And any leaders? Anyone using it all the time, building their own ChatGPTs and agents? And yes, you're right. James, come on, put your hand up. What's the matter with you? Go on. If anybody needs to know about intent and SEO within AI, have a word with James. He's the expert in it. So there's all different levels in the room. What we're going to try and do today is to maybe just show you a few things that you haven't seen before, different ways of using AI, just move away from ChatGPT or something similar, and just give you the art of the possible. But let's just kind of break down AI a little bit. I'm not going to go into too much detail about this, but just to give a sense of context, and this helps us with our prompting as well when we start to understand it. So actually, AI has been around since 1950. And a lot of people are quite surprised that actually it's existed that long. They've sort of just come to be aware of it through ChatGPT and generative AI and think it's a new thing, but actually we're going way back. So Alan Turing, as well as all the work that he was doing decoding the Enigma machines, actually wrote a paper in 1950 about whether a computer could fool a human adjudicator in terms of the output. So what was called the imitation game. It's where the movie gets its name. Most people know Alan Turing through Dominic Cumberbatch, which is a bit of a shame, but there we go. And if you've ever been to Bletchley, which is not so far away, which is kind of where a lot of that Enigma code stuff was done. I went there, I still don't really understand how it worked, but it seems very, very clever. And then in '56, we actually had the birth of the term artificial intelligence. So Professor John McCarthy, who used it at an American symposium to reference the ability for computers to mimic and act as humans. So that's science of computer technology in that way. And then our first, what was called chatterbox at the time, we now refer to them as chatbox, a bit more modern, was actually in 1966. So again, it's amazing to think that actually that technology and that use was existing way back there. It was a psychotherapy chatbot, used a series of kind of pre-canned responses using regenerative questioning. So that ask a question with a question or answer a question with a question. So I'm feeling a bit miserable. Or when did you start feeling a bit miserable? Yesterday. Or what happened yesterday that might be that kind of thing. But you can imagine that kind of, I'm typing this stuff in and I'm getting responses back. And I think that's very similar to how a lot of people felt when they first started using ChatGPT or something similar, going, oh my God. And then it all went a bit quiet. So 70s, 80s, early 90s, now referred to as the AI winter. So there was a lot of funding got pulled, not very much kind of happened. And then it really kind of took off again in the late 90s, 97, when Kasparov, the chess grandmaster, was first beaten by a computer, and that kind of raised it into the public consciousness again. And then we had a couple of technologies that kind of have started to support where we've got to today. So in 2000, we had machine learning. In 2010, deep learning. I'll touch on those very briefly in a second. Our first GPT was actually in 2018. It wasn't chat, came before then. Extra points in the room. Who would like to tell the rest of the room what GPT actually stands for?
Generative pre-trained transformer.
Yes, it does. Extra points, definite muffin for you. There we go. So, there you go. You can take that home tonight and go, what does GPT actually stand for? Yeah. So, generative, to actually create. Pre-trained, so it's trained on data of some sort, and then in this case, mostly all of our knowledge, so the internet. And then transformer, the ability to be able to take an input in one way and actually give something out in another way. So that's what GPT and where GPT actually comes from. And then the thing that we all know, October 22, ChatGPT hit, and the world has gone AI crazy, excited, scared, pick your adjective. And it's that pace of change that's kind of really amazing people. So this is just over 2 years ago now, 22. So this is using a program called Midjourney, which up until a month ago was still the best image generator that existed. We'll talk about that in a second. Very simple prompt, doctor and patient, photorealistic. And we've got some kind of DALL-E-esque image. You can, maybe they're people, maybe they're not. There's definitely some kind of trippy face thing going on. And then we just skip forward 6 months and we can see change already. So it's definitely a more recognizable person. I wouldn't say it's photorealistic in any way, but we can see that we're doing that. And then another 6 months or so, we've definitely got people now. So we're now kind of 18 months on. We've still got like a 1950s Midwest magazine vibe going on, but actually, it's pretty, that change is amazing. And then July 24, we've started to see kind of texture in the hair. We've got kind of the ruffles and the clothing. I think we've still got some kind of weirdness going on in some of the images. There is still, absolutely, it's not perfect. And I'm never going to say that AI will always be perfect, and we will look at that as part of the considerations. But you can see where it's kind of got to in that kind of short space of time. So one of the most exciting things is that today, AI is the worst it's ever going to be. And we've seen that with everyone that's been making their plastic toys and figures in ChatGPT. We know who you are, yeah. And we've got the conscientious going, I'm not spoiling the earth by doing that, which is also a very valid point. We'll talk about that a little bit as well. But Things that you may have tried 6 months ago, try again. Don't give up with AI because it is just moving so fast and it's becoming easier and easier to access and unlock things that it's kind of worthwhile sticking with it. So it's never as bad as it's going to be. And the other thing I would kind of say to you is that the only limitation now on AI really is our own imagination. So if we can think of the concept, if we can start to go, I wonder if, could you, how would that, an AI tool will be able to kind of help you to do that. This is the most tech we're going to get in our non-tech thing. But I think it just helps to just dig slightly deeper when we start to think about how AI works and how we can get the most from it. So we know that we've got artificial intelligence as our overarching concept back in 1950, 2010 machine learning. So that's effectively being able to take and find all of the patterns within the data that we're creating and actually make sense of that. So it allows us to predict, to understand, to model as part of that foundation. So that gives us things like predictive text, love it or loathe it. It gives us things like image recognition, and it starts email spam filters, for example. All of that is being done through pattern recognition and through data profiling and contextualizing. And it feeds things like some of your preferences, so it's part of what drives the next Netflix algorithm to show you what you like and what you would want to see next. 2010, as I said, we had deep learning. So if we think of machine learning as the thinking part of AI, then deep learning actually uses a mimic of how the human brain works. So it's a series of networks of neurons. And what this can do is then start to create and to start to actually put solutions together for us. So very much using our smart devices, very much used, again, kind of over that layer of Netflix. So we've got our kind of data being sorted, we've got our ability to output and to drive that. And then we've got generative AI coming in 2022, which is that ability to now synthesize, to actually create something that didn't exist before, and mostly from a conversation. There's no technical coding skill in that. Ask a question, verbalize, use human language, we can get an output. And then that's all powered by large language models. Now, quite often, generative AI, large language models, LLMs, are interchangeable as terms or are used interchangeably. They're two very different things. So if we kind of think about large language models as the engine, it's the thing that's driving our generative AI, powered by everything that we know, so about 80% of the internet, which causes us some problems as well. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But think about that as the library of all the books in the world that you can go and request from. So when we then start thinking about prompting, imagine the difference between going to that library and going, I would like a book on architecture. And you go, okay, here's a book on architecture. And you go, that's not what I wanted. And you go, yes, it's a book on architecture. And you go, so as opposed to asking our librarian for, I would like a book on architecture in the 18th century Greece for marble in a particular style. Suddenly that context and that detail gives you a much more specific response. So when we start to think about our prompting and our approach, one of the quickest ways that we can make a difference is in being a bit more detailed about our prompt. Now don't get me wrong, there is a place for quick prompting, absolutely, and we'll be doing that in our demo. But actually if we want to just take it up to the next level, that's one way to do it. Now there is a number of prompting frameworks that are out there. All of them talk about some kind of role or role that we take. All of them talk about giving some kind of context. All of them talk about some sense of kind of what do you actually want. So this is from AI for non-techies. It's based on 3 C's: character, context, and clarity. And I kind of really like it because it's nice and simple, and my little brain can only hold 3 things at any one time. And if I'm trying to type and talk, forget it, that's fine. So we can see that we've kind of broken that down. So, character. Act as a LinkedIn ghostwriter. I'm an AI trainer, specializing in non-technical AI training for small businesses. So, imagine we go to our librarian. Actually, this is what I'm trying to do. This is who I am. You can give the AI a role. You can take on a role, and that just helps the AI understand from all the information that it's got available to it, how it then starts to put that together to be as meaningful as possible for you. Our context. I've attached a brochure. So the more that we can give AI to work on, the better. AI is really, really strong at seeing the patterns and absorbing information. So rather than going, let me describe to you what good LinkedIn looks like. Give it good LinkedIn posts. Give it the posts that have really done, and it will see the patterns. It will be able to do that much, much better than you can actually describe it. More context, so they need, we want lots of value, they're beginners when it comes to their AI business, and I've attached my audience details. So who are we writing for? One of the other ways to think about AI is a really smart, really keen assistant. So if you were to walk into a room and ask for a task to be done, if you went, I'd like a 500-word blog on SEO, as I'm looking at James, you'd get a 500-word blog on SEO. But it would be what's now, there's a term around at the moment, AI slop, which is this kind of generic AI. Everyone can recognize it, everyone can see it. Anyone on LinkedIn can see it a mile off. AI comments are rubbish, and that's the polite version, so not all AI is good AI, I'll give you that. But the difference between that and going, actually, keen, super eager assistant, we need a 500-word blog, it's on this topic, here's who we're writing for, this is what's done really well in the past, and I want a really catchy headline, 3 paragraphs with a learning point in each, and a really good call to action. How much different is that? So think about it as if you were briefing somebody, what would you tell them, what would you give them, and treat AI in a very similar way. And that clarity then is about what do we want at the outcome. So in this case, on a topic, 3 bullet points, and a reason it would help my audience. That last comment there, format your results in Markdown. So Markdown is a type of formatting. It makes it much easier just to copy and paste it into another document. So again, there's these little tips and tricks that you'll start to pick up to kind of get the most from it. Who's fed up with ChatGPT writing in American English? All those Zs. Well, let's not even start talking about M dashes or the AI dash, as it's now. There's a load of copywriters going, what? No, it's a proper thing. One of the ways you can stop that is to obviously ask it to use UK English, if that's appropriate. A better way of doing it is actually AI responds really well to threat or incentive. So if you then say, okay, I will fine you, $200 seems to be the magic number for some reason. It's not 3. De La Soul got it wrong. 2. Let's show my age now. $200, and it needs to be dollars, which is an irony about keeping it in UK English. But there you go. So yeah, or if you're less comfortable with stick, then the carrot is I will reward you $200. And for some reason, that just helps it kind of stay in context. It's just one of those little. Not yet. One day, when they've put it in the robot body and it comes, yeah. It's the whole please, thank you thing, isn't it? So I realise that actually that might also be draining the world's resources, but I definitely want to be at the back of the queue when they come and get us. So I'm still polite to chat. So prompting is a skill in its own right. So I can only really spend this much time on it, but hopefully that's just giving you a little bit of a approach to take, just expand it out. As a rule of thumb, if your prompt can sit on one slide, it's probably too short. So just think about how can I brief? What detail can I give? How can I break down the task? And that's really where the human skill comes in. What is it that I want to achieve? How can I articulate that? Now let AI do it. Go for it.
I was just going to say, have you also had a tip of actually telling it, do not make things up? Because I've done that, I've heard it and I've done it, and rather than trying to like make up company statistics about how many customers we serve and stuff like that, it goes, well, actually I'm going to stick to what you've told me.
Yeah, so it's thank you, because that's an excellent point. So again, prompting can really help. There's a thing called hallucination where AI makes stuff up. So the better your prompt, and that is part of it, going only use the information I've provided to you, or give me the sources of that information. We'll kind of, absolutely, yeah. And we'll talk about why that happens at the end. But yeah, top tip, love that. Anyone else got any prompting top tips while we're in the zone?
I'm in the front of the queue for it to kill me.
Are you? Are you abrupt and rude to AI?
Follow the prompt.
Right. Is it fair to say that you're like that with your human colleagues as well?
Not at all, okay?
You don't have to know what the prompt is. You can actually ask it to help you create the prompt before you get to the end point. So there's kind of what's called chain prompting, a series of steps that you take to get to the outcome. Absolutely, asking it clarifying questions. Is there anything else that you need to know or clarify to help you complete this task? with 95% confidence or 95% of the time. There is another kind of half a top tip on top of that, which is actually, depending on the output, re-edit the original prompt with the information it's asking rather than answer it as a question, and that seems to just help with the context a little bit as well. That's kind of something I heard. I haven't really tested it, but that kind of feels like it might do something.
Just a really tactical question. Putting it all in one prompt, as in don't hit enter each time.
Yeah.
That's the best way to do it.
Yep,
Keep it as a very long.
Yeah, so a couple of things, but feel free to break up your prompt within the prompt. So, yeah, absolutely. If anybody keeps, it's a bit like LinkedIn used to be before you change the setting. So actually just a control enter will give you that space line rather than, oh, it's gone. WhatsApp's a bit like that as well. And my kids kind of just do one line at a time. I'm like, just write the whole thing. What's the matter with you? Anyway. So yes, absolutely. So that spacing in that format also helps your brain as well kind of do that. If you've got lots of information, then actually maybe put it into a document, save it as a PDF and upload it to get it to reference. So there is a thing, in fact, we'll talk about it here. So just as a compare and contrast with some of the most common chatbots. So we've got ChatGPT, definitely the Swiss Army knife. It can pretty much do everything or something of everything now. If there was kind of one that you had to kind of have a go at, I would definitely recommend that as the first place to start because it can do image, it can do data analysis, it can view images. We'll have a little look at that in a second. But it has the smallest memory. So there's a thing called a context window, which is how much it can remember in that conversation. It's around 100,000 words. It just expanded that slightly. So if you've got a really long conversation going on and it starts to kind of seem to forget stuff or the responses tend to get a bit weaker, it might actually be because actually it's starting to forget things from the beginning. So one of the ways that you can kind of do that is kind of upload your documents and kind of start again. But depending on what you're doing, there isn't, unless you're doing really big research, it shouldn't be too much of an issue.
Is that 100,000 in the one conversation or in the whole?
In the whole thing. So it actually works on a thing called tokens, and there's a token for each. Like one token is like a little word, 2 tokens for like a medium word, roughly. But it equates to roughly 100,000 as a whole thing. So yeah, if you've kind of got 4 or 5 research pieces that you're loading up, you're going to hit that really quickly. Whereas Claude, so ChatGPT from OpenAI, Claude is from Anthropic, backed by Amazon. For copywriters and for those that are word creative, known as the human-sounding one, the wording, the approach it tends to take, it feels a little bit better, a bit more rounded. It's also much better at going, I don't know that, or I can't do that. I refer to ChatGPT as a Labrador. It's very keen to please. It will always, not only will it tell you everything you've done is a great idea, or, but it's part of that kind of making stuff up is because it's trying to kind of find an answer for you. Within the settings, you can tell it not to do that. You can tell it to be a bit more direct, a bit more succinct. There's different ways you can kind of manage that. But yeah, whereas Claude will go, I don't know the answer to that, and then it's kind of just a bit more honest. Gemini is from Google. So Claude, the other thing that used to be the biggest differentiator was that Claude wasn't linked up to the internet. On its paid service now, it has just started some of that research. So this Claude is really one to watch because that ability to output in a more human way and have internet access is going to be a real interesting dynamic to kind of watch out for in the next few months, weeks, or days, depending on what happens with speed of AI change. Gemini's from Google. So the thing about Google is it's linked to all of the G Suite stuff. So YouTube, business listing. It's got the largest context window. It's quite good at language. It kind of picks up the nuance. So actually, if you're doing lots of kind of research now, there is something that there are a number of kind of research models that ChatGPT now has that a thing called kind of Perplexity gives you access to. But just as a general rule, if you're only playing with one thing and you need a bit more power, have a look at Claude or Gemini to be able to kind of load up more documents. So this is a really nice one in terms of insight and internet access. So as a use case, I've turned up at Reading train station. I go into Gemini and I go, I really fancy an English breakfast, where do I go? It will then search business listings, search reviews, link into maps and go, okay, why don't you try Charlie's down the road? So just as a kind of nice little way of being able to do that. And then Copilot from Microsoft. So it actually runs on the same large language model as ChatGPT. So it's GPT-4. It's just not as good. It's not as good. Anyone forced to use Copilot? It's a bit pants, isn't it? It is a bit pants, to be honest. But if it's the only thing you've got access to, and because it is Microsoft, because it is the most secure and enterprise-led, a lot of businesses go, right, that's all we're going to allow for the moment. So something is better than nothing. But yeah, there's a lot of people going, yeah, I'm going to go to chat and do that and then copy and paste it over here. So it's I think it's super safe, but the guardrails are almost too tight to be as creative, and it's a bit flaky, and it just doesn't give you the best output, but that's the way of it. So just to give you, I'm just going to jump out of this for a second. First kind of demo bits, just to look at a couple of bits that chat can do that you might not be using it for at the moment. So the first one is kind of vision mode. So you can upload an image and actually get it to understand that image. So as a little home tip, I've just got this kind of pre-done, something I did. So I took a photo of this plant. As you can see, brown leaves, not looking particularly happy. It's just sitting on my desk at home. Asked ChatGPT just to identify it and give me some well-being tips. It got it right, I know, because the label was still in the plant, so I didn't have to, it's fine, it is a peace lily, that was confirmed. Couple of things, you might be watering it too much, you might not be watering it enough. It felt like it was a consultant's answer, it depends, you know. The thing that really freaked me out was this line. You might want to move it slightly away from the radiator. So it had taken that image and it had recognised that there's a radiator in the background and that it was a bit too close to it. So just those little things that you go, oh my God, that's clever, that's clever. Another home use case. Don't know what to cook for tonight? Take a picture of the contents of your fridge. Ask ChatGPT or your favourite bot to give you a recipe or menu for that evening. Yeah, everyone's going to be doing that, right? Yeah. So that's vision mode. You can also use it in a kind of work context. So actually, so for those that don't know, you can just upload a file. So let's just take, so anyone doing kind of lots of whiteboarding or planning or sticky notes and that kind of thing? Yeah, once upon a time, everyone used to, talking and doing something at the same time. Doesn't work. So I've just got this image of a whiteboard. We can just see that there. Look at that and you go, what does that mean? So somebody would have to kind of write that, categorize it, etc., etc., etc. What we can now do is we can now go, now, ignore everything that I just said about prompting, because we're just going to do this for easy. Tell me, actually, let's do summarize. So, just going to see what it does. So once upon a time, certainly when you had them sticky notes, when you're doing your kind of planning, and somebody would have to type up every sticky note and then kind of put it somewhere. Don't have to do that. So we've now got within seconds a summary of everything that is on that whiteboard and 3 keys. So speed. So AI, really good for efficiency, really good for being more effective, as well as being more creative in its kind of wider sense. Just coming back to that point on prompting, getting it to prompt within prompts. So, 4 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago maybe, I was kind of doing my training going, actually, Gemini Image Creator is the best. It's the only one that can really kind of do face swaps. It can do everything. And then it turned on a dime, and actually the new ChatGPT image generator actually allows us to take images, logo, wording. So I kind of gave it this, incorporating my logo and headshot in the style of a movie blockbuster, and add a headline, the only limit to AI is your imagination. And as we can see, it did that very well. So once upon a time, 2 or 3 words, and then it would start getting a bit gobbledygook. Does it very well. Really good control, so you can actually then just ask it to change that wording. Got a little bit weird down here. I don't know what that is, but so that's fine. So we then said, well, actually, just get rid of that bit because that's rubbish. But make the image more Marvel superhero and action. Use the drama and action of a Marvel star. We got some kind of angry Nick got created. But we've got the logo here. We've got the folds within the fabric. Scaring me slightly, but there we go. But then, to come back to our point, actually help me create a better prompt. So, love it because it's a Labrador and it kind of really likes things. Let's make the next version next level. So it asks me a series of questions. What vibe do I want? What tone and mood? So suddenly, things that I hadn't even thought about, it's then getting me to think about. I can then answer those questions as I go through, and we come up with this lovely super prompt, which I would never have created. A cinematic, futuristic poster of a middle-aged man. Rude. With short, curly, salt and pepper hair. Double rude. Silo superhero, etc., etc., which then gave us some kind of angry Nick was still there very much, but we asked it for a London background. We can definitely see the gherkin and the shard. We asked for kind of swirls. It's kind of all there. So absolutely fantastic point. Get the AI to help you with your prompting. You don't have to know straight away.
Clients, no need question. Who owns that image?
Good question. Good question. So the general consensus at the moment from some early court cases that have come out of America is that if you have used AI to create an image, then you have created that, you own that copyright. Where it's different is if you ask AI to copy something exactly or use the likeness of something that is already copyright or has an IP on it. So that tends to be, now I'm not a solicitor, so there are plenty of AI legal experts out there, but that tends to be the general kind of sense of it at the moment. Because it's a tool. So if you're using it to create something collaboratively, then it's there together. Whether you then there's always the difference between what's legally required and what should I do. So actually whether you are transparent in terms of this was created in part by AI, this was totally created by AI. So you'll see on LinkedIn that there's now a little marker that says created by AI. So the platforms are starting to kind of pick up on that as well. So we will see where we get to. Right, I think that. So that's just a little couple of things within chat. If you're not using those, feel free to kind of have a play. All of them other than Claude. Claude doesn't do images at the moment, but everything else pretty much works the same way. Just talking about cost. So each of these has a freemium model. So you can use it for free, but if you're using it for free, there'll be limits on how much you can do. So for example, you can only do 3 images a day, I think it is. You'll soon run out of a window when you're starting to do a prompt that says, actually you've exceeded your limit for today. So that's kind of the biggest difference at the moment. Just from a use point of view, there's some security issues which we'll talk about at the end as well. So we talked a little bit about images. So what we're going to do is expand slightly on, we all kind of tend to go to AI in kind of content words, ChatGPT to start with. Actually, there's a kind of world out there. So we're going to have a little bit of fun now. I'm going to create an image. I'm going to turn that image into a video, and we're going to create a soundtrack for that video in about 2.5 minutes. So I'm going to use 3 programs to do that. I'm going to use Midjourney. So Midjourney was, and probably still is, and from a creative, artistic point of view, this is the only one I'm showing that doesn't have a free version to it. So fundamentally, for general images, and in fact, actually, let's throw it into ChatGPT as well and get a comparison. So we need a kind of image that's got some kind of action about it. So I kind of need a figure and an action. It doesn't need to be a person. So to give you some inspiration, previous examples, we had a polar bear juggling oranges. At the Bucks Marketing Meetup, we had a duck-billed platypus playing cricket, which started off at Lord's and then became the House of Lords in some kind of strange twist of fate. I've had racing car drivers drinking drinks. So our only limitation here is our imagination. So who can think of something fantastic, doing something fantastical?
A Regency lady DJing on some decks.
Beautiful. And just to give it some more movement, whoa, that's not even close, is it? That's... Okay, so let's see what we get from that. So it's a pretty generic prompt. I'm going to just run that through here, and I'm going to run it through chat as well, just to see what we get. So we've definitely got Regency, I would say. I don't know if anyone's super fashionable and kind of knows their thing, but let's see, we'll sort of kind of nail Gwyn. So one of the things we'll talk about is the, when we talk about bias, is the definition of kind of beauty and form and shape. Clearly, everything is based on the internet, so what is the most what is the similarity that we have in all of the models that we see? Smiley, smiley, that's all very nice. Let's just take the one that I think is most action-orientated, just for our video purpose. All right, let's just take this one for the sake of, so I'm just going to download that. So we can see that we've got quite a lot of detail, we've got a lot of fabric, we've got a kind of depth of field. Now, let's just see what chat has given us. Oh, it's given us 2, which is going to slow it down. Oh, yeah. That's pretty good, isn't it? Yeah. And actually, I really like, we've got this juxtaposition, so I don't think Midjourney's done it. So no, they've gone period, haven't they? But we've got this really, really nice. There we go. But so single line, and that's what we've kind of done. So again, this kind of sense of what can we actually create? How can we unlock our creativity? Let's stick with our original at the moment. So now we're going to put this into a program called Runway. And see what it gives us. Now, there isn't maybe a lot of movement, so I'll be curious to see what it actually gives us. But so let's. Right, we'll see what we get from there. And then, now this is definitely a rabbit hole that everyone's going to disappear down as soon as they get home. So this is Suno, which will create a music track and lyrics of any style pretty much that you kind of want. So, to go with our Regency stroke Edwardian stroke Victorian stroke who knows what, who can give me a style of music that they would like to kind of back that image with? Drum and bass.
With classical instruments.
Or the Vienna waltz in drum and bass style.
Let's see what we get. All right. Now, this is normally pretty quick, so always give us kind of 2 versions. We'll see what we get from it. Dancing the Regency Nights. The lyrics will always be the same, but we'll get a different style. So let's see what we've got. Silken lace flow in the breeze tonight, candlelight flickers, shadows left and right, glances stolen, secrets in the glow, hear the rhythm, let the tempo grow. Spin and whirl, let your feet ignite, sweeping gowns move in the pale moonlight, pulse of the room keeps the heart in play, dancing the night till the break of day. Whoa. Let's have a listen and see what we've got. slow start. It's going to drop the beat, maybe. Not really. Let's try the other one. See what we've got. I feel half of the room is relieved. Half of the room is kind of. Both starting quite, aren't they? So no hard hitting. More breathy. More breathy, that one. That's more modern breathy. Yeah. Swifty's an executive producer on this one for sure. Let's see what we've got with that. There we go. So, maybe not exactly what we were looking for. Maybe not exactly, but within pretty much seconds, we've got an image into a video, we've got a soundtrack. Go and play with Suno, it's free. You'll get certain tracks out of it. I've definitely had people who go, we were just doing that all night. We just see it. It's a rabbit hole we couldn't come out of. But have a play. And that's kind of the message really for tonight, is have some fun with it, get more familiar with it, and don't worry about work to start with. Work will come as a kind of second piece. Right, so just to kind of finish off on video and voice, as well as images, we can then start to create digital twins of ourselves, little avatars. So let me kind of play this. I have never actually, in fact, I'll let AI Nick tell you.
Hi, this is AI Nick. I hope this is a good introduction to AI and the real things looking after you. I've never actually spoken these words in a video, but this avatar created after 2 minutes of filming is pretty good, right?
So you film yourself for 3 minutes. It gives you a digital twin of yourself. You can then either use an audio track or you can go copy into words. Work case, use case. If you've got CEO, someone's time precious, someone who doesn't like being in front of the camera, capture their likeness once, and then you can use them for intros, for presentation snippets. You can then just rinse and repeat that image and that use as much as you need to. Where it gets really interesting is once you've got your digital avatar, you can then speak between 50 and 100 languages. Now, I'm half South American. My mum was Colombian, my dad was English. We never spoke Spanish as kids because my dad couldn't understand it. A regret for all of us because I have tried to learn as an adult. I can mutter a few words, food and drink appears. The kids thought I could speak Spanish when they were little. Then they did it at GCSE and now go, what the hell was that? And I go, well, anytime you want to say something, I'm not ordering. There we go. However, I can now speak Colombian.
Hola, soy la IA Nick. Espero que esta sea una buena introducción a la IA y que el verdadero Nick esté cuidando de ti. Nunca había dicho estas palabras en un video, pero este avatar, que se creó después de 2 minutos de grabación, es bastante realista, ¿no?
Freaks me out because that's my voice. That is not a language I can do. So again, if you've got multiple territories, if you need to address groups, there is a lot to be said for localization and the effort of that. And again, you don't have to say this is real. You can say this is a AI created version for you. Put it in your video content, send that out. Different way of kind of operating.
How do you know what it's saying if you can't speak the language?
So you can. That is true. So I've played this to my mum. She goes, it's not perfect, but I can absolutely understand. Well, apart from freaking out completely and going, when did you learn Colombian Spanish? I went, so the language, what is slightly interesting is that if you then convert that back into English, you lose some of the intonation from it. So at the moment, it's coming across a little bit more aggressive than you might necessarily kind of go. But again, it doesn't have to be perfect today. The fact that you've created something is something when it was almost impossible to do that for a recognized face. And it will get better, and it will get better, and it will get better.
Could you use something like that to send that as a marketing to multiple people, and it will say their first name?
Yeah. So a bit like email, you can put in merge tags, and you can, name of, etc., etc. Yeah, absolutely.
I think YouTube also has that for dubbing for creators that have multiple channels or multiple viewers. So the audio itself, you can record your video in English, right? And if you have viewers in Spanish and you're qualified for that same program, the viewers can watch it and also like hear you in their native languages also. So I think that's what you said.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So multiple versions from the same core piece. Absolutely.
My hack on this: cyber criminals are using it the other way around. So if they can get 3 minutes of decent audio of the CFO, they can use it then.
Yep. So there's always going to be bad actors, from the point of door-to-door salespeople selling you rubbish, to internet fraud, to now AI. So absolutely, let's not pretend that there isn't a dark side to all of this technology. HeyGen, which is this particular platform, you have to speak a code word in to be able to get your likeness kind of recognized. So that's how they try and manage it. So unless you are short-arming somebody to say the right word at the right time. So there's guardrails in place, but absolutely there is technology, specialist technology, that will allow you to do that. But we're mainstream for the moment, but it's a fair point. All right, I'm just slightly conscious of time, so let me just whip through the last couple of bits. So we looked at Midway Runway Suno. If you haven't used it yet, go and have a play with Notebook LM. That's very cool because it allows you to link up websites, YouTube videos, documents, and then give yourself a faux podcast that will actually give you all of that information back.
So let's start with Twist Consultancy.
Okay.
So this is a website, a brochure, linked up, and now have a podcast created.
Idea of combining AI.
Well, cut that slightly short, but a really good use case for that is if you are, so somebody I know was learning online, really struggled to kind of get the concept. They uploaded that content and the notes, had a podcast created. Suddenly they were able to kind of really understand much better because it had been given to them in a different way. So have a play with that. All right, so just to finish off with different ways that we can use our AI. So we've kind of looked at some of the content creation. We've looked at the analysis. It's really good for idea generation. Simulation is a really good one, so you can ask it to take on a role. So I've got a troublesome team member. I've got a troublesome member of staff. I want to practice my sales pitch. Take the role of a prospective customer, here's a profile, and actually using the voice modes within most of the, or certainly with ChatGPT, you can have a conversation with it. That's a really neat way of just starting to kind of expand your use. Translation we kind of talked about, and an expert advice. So act as a LinkedIn ghostwriter, act as a UK legal contracts manager, act as a HR manager. All of this is here to kind of help you. And then we said that we would talk about risks and limitations. So the bias we've kind of touched on slightly. The reason for that in part is that we've learned from the internet. And within the internet is a whole load of bias. So whether that's create me an image of a CEO, and you'll probably get a bloke with a beard and glasses. Show me a beautiful woman, you'll probably get pale-skinned, fair-haired, thin. Show me a full glass of wine. No wine is ever pictured full. It's always a third, so it really struggles to do that. Give me a series of watch faces at 3:03. All watch faces are kind of open hands. So it learns from what it's seen the most of. So it's not AI being biased, it's the bias on what it's done. So part of our job and part of our human side is to recognize that there's bias and to try and be aware of that and to kind of watch it, spot it, change it, or train the models over time to be less biased as we need to. Hallucinations, so again, similar. It's kind of, there's as much Reddit and social comment out there as there is published papers. So again, there is no, AI doesn't know what's right and wrong. It has no sense of context. It just takes everything with an equal weighting, as well as that willingness to please. So about 20% of the time, it will make stuff up. So always check your sources. That's just good research, best practice. And also be more structured in your prompting, give better examples. It will kind of help. And we talked about copyright and IP a little bit. And then sustainability. So actually, yes, all of this technology has a draw. All technology, any industrial process has a draw on the environment. So we have a responsibility, and it's not for me to say what's right and wrong. and things are in balance. So maybe one of the arguments is that maybe AI will help us solve some of our climate change issues in the future, and therefore actually there's a longer term gain. So I'm not saying don't use it, I'm not saying use it, but it's part of that kind of balancing act. And then to finish off with, if you have moved from, I've had fun with it, I want to start using it at work, most change starts with, I've got a shiny bit of new tech, how am I going to use it? No. Classic change management. What's my problem? What am I trying to solve? What do I need the outcome to be? Now what's the right technology for that? So that's what I do a lot of now, is coming into businesses, and it's more change management, process mapping, and the AI then is part of that enabler. So is it AI? Is it automation? Is it people and process? And that's kind of where we start to develop it. Thank you. I realise I've gone on slightly longer, but we have some really good questions through. Feel free, there is a little secret landing page where you'll be able to get a copy of the slides. There's some training courses on there with a discount for you and some free giveaways off that QR code or just looking at TMM events. And I'm quite happy to send the slides around into the Slack group and just kind of share it into the WhatsApp group, sorry, wrong platform, and do it that way. So, back to you, Ray.